Sekeres Price for Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. We're coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the iconic Wall Center, downtown Vancouver. If you're looking for space for your next event, call the Wall. 55,000 square feet of striking indoor and outdoor space. Get them sales at wallcenter.com. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, Grady Sass, hitting switches, conducting things with Sean Chessman. Big show coming up, and it's all brought to you by Applewood Auto Group.
Yeah, Applewood Infinity in Richmond has the Q50s. The 2024s are in. Get lease rates from 1.99% for 24 months with non-stack cash of $4,000 on all trims. Give them a call, or better yet, go to the Richmond Auto Mall. Take them for a test drive. It's all good at Applewood.
Our poll question today, do the Canucks win the series Tuesday in Game 5? Simple yes or no at Sekeres Price on Twitter and YouTube. Voted yes. But, of course, nothing comes easy for the Vancouver Canucks. So if you told me they have to go back to Nashville, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. Of course, the Predators have been the better team here for the last couple of games. Little doubt of that. And if you want to pick apart the Canucks game, there is plenty to pick apart. We've talked about how astonishing it is they are up 3-1, given their star goaltender is hurt. They've had to play 3. Their captain's banged up, not playing the same amount of minutes, not playing as effectively. Their would-be star centerman's been an absolute zero in this series. And yet here we are with a 3-1 series lead and a chance to advance to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time since, 2020 in the bubble. Of course, they got to the second round that year against the Vegas Golden Knights.
Lots of teams have laid eggs in these playoffs, particularly in the West.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone a little bit more lopsided in the East, but in the West, like Dallas laid an egg in the first 2. Vegas laid an egg in the next 2. Colorado laid an egg in Game 1. Edmonton laid an egg and won in their Game 4. Like it's been a weird Western playoff to this point, leading me to say I have no freaking clue what's going to happen here tonight. There's a myriad of circumstances that you could see unfold here, but akin to what you're saying, just once. And hey, Game 4 is a marvelous story. So I'm not saying there's no positive things in Canuck land. There is. But just once, you'd like something to just go according to Hoyle, like just be like, go out, get a nice lead, keep that lead for most of the game, nurse it home, tidy victory. But maybe that's too much to ask for in the playoffs where there's so much emotion and so much energy.
At some point, you would have to think, as you say, a game go to Hoyle. Like, for starters, the better team wins the game for the first time since Game 1. Maybe the team that is way ahead on the shot clock or a shot attempt should probably win the game at some point. That's here.
The theory
coming up soon. Anyways, let's get to our top story, advancement. And it's brought to you by Douglas. Blake, the last time the Vancouver Canucks won a playoff series at Rogers Arena, May 24th, 2011, the famous stanchion goal from Kevin Bieksa to beat the San Jose Sharks in Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. This is also, of course, the last time the Canucks won a playoff series with fans in the building. And that happened 4,725 days ago.
I'd say it feels like yesterday, but it doesn't. It feels like 4,000 days ago. That's how long ago it feels. I remember the confetti surprised me. Confetti rained down.
And the streamers as well.
Yeah.
And I think it surprised the players because here's the thing, that confetti in the street, they don't mix well with ice, we learned.
Yes. Yeah.
The players were like, you can remember walking into that room after Game 5 and everyone talking about, did anybody see the puck? Oh, Bieksa saw the puck. Nobody else saw where the puck went off the stanchion. And that confetti slipped a bit.
Tripped on a bunch of it. It would be unbelievable to see it happen. It's been so long. It's been unexpected this year.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think that most people thought it would have been nice to, jump over the playoff bar in the last week of the season, get in there and just enjoy the experience of the playoffs. But I think you're seeing on the other side of things, like being in the playoffs but not being in your series is actually not that much fun. Ask Winnipeg Jets fans and Leafs fans how that feels right now to be down 3-1. Making it to the playoffs sounds great, but you do want to be competitive when you get there. And the Canucks are being more than competitive. They're in the driver's seat right now with home ice advantage now, home ice advantage theoretically in the next round should they get there. So it's too much right now. It's a pinch me moment here for Canucks fans who've languished for so long with futility from the franchise, and yet it's right there. And again, back to the original answer about who should win. Like, wouldn't it just be nice for Canuck fans to not have to be on the edge of their seat with frayed nerves right till game 6 or worse yet, game 7 to find out?
Let's hear from JT Miller on the stakes here in game 5.
That's part of the situation we're in, but I mean, I think our priority, like I alluded to, is the process, and we need to play a better hockey game than we had the last game and a half. So that's a priority for us. Like I said, we go out and play a really good game tonight. Might not win. Sometimes that happens. I'm sure they feel the same way that happened to them the other night. So it's just a worry about us and worry about Canuck hockey, and then we can evaluate once the game goes on. But right now, I think it's kind of dangerous for our team to get caught up and we must win so we don't go back, to get that mindset. So we're just worried about having a good start, dictating play, and, we're excited to be back in front of the home fans.
And that's what we taled about yesterday.
Yeah. Walked it back a little. I don't think he needed to walk it back, but I get why he did.
No, you as much as you would like to win game 5 and avoid the trip to Nashville and buy more time for Hughes and Casey DeSmith, and he's right in that you can't treat this as though it's do or die. Like you can't get too low if you happen to lose this hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fine line. And look, I would expect that Nashville comes out guns a-blazing because you're facing elimination. And yet, if you were to tell me that the Predators' spirit is crushed because of the way they lost game 4, I understand that as well. I am someone who does believe in the momentum of a playoff series. I do believe it carries over game to game, or at least it can carry over game to game. And so I think Andrew Brunette has a big coaching job to do on the Predator side of the ledger here in terms of making them believe that they can win 3 in a row, but also just the immediacy of having to get over what happened to them on Sunday, because I imagine everybody on that Predators bench thought at 3-1 in the waning minutes that this was going to be a 2-2 series heading back to Vancouver.
First goal might be big in that regard, just to sort of continue the, we've got this now, you're under our thumb sort of thought. But, the Predators have the advantage, if you will, quote unquote, of having their back against the wall. Like, they can play with reckless abandon of there's no tomorrow, because for them, there might not be tomorrow. They have to play with that desperation. So, I appreciate that the Canucks want to say, hey, we can't raise it too high, because if we lose, we have to find a way to pick ourselves up and play game 6. I get that. But you also have to match the desperation that the Predators feel. Like, they're going to, theoretically, they should be shot out of a cannon to start this game, the Predators. So you can't just kind of go out there and be like, just another game. No, they're playing with absolute desperation. So how do you match that? Well, you say, guys, this is our find game 7 energy. It's not game 7. We have a safety net. Let's not use it. Find game 7 energy, because they're going to have it, because for them it is. So it's there are some have-truths there, I think. I think everybody's right here, but you do need to find an extra gear here for this game, because the Preds should have it.
It's our top story, brought to you by Douglas.
And if you want to have the best night's sleep, I mean, let's hope that, the team is sleeping on Douglas mattresses, because every advantage you get, you deserve that advantage for every day that you wake up. Order yours today, douglas.ca/Canucks Army. And right now, it comes with free stuff. Everybody loves free stuff. 2 memory foam pillows with protectors, a cotton sheet set, and a mattress protector free with any mattress order, no matter what the size is that you're ordering. So it's been named Canada's best mattress on Canadian Living. Find out why with your 365-night risk-free trial. You don't like it? Get a full refund. No questions asked. Douglas.ca/Canucks Army.
Rick Tocchet is calling it a game time decision for who starts in goal between Artur Silovs and Casey DeSmith, and a fair bit of trickery at Canucks morning skate this morning. Artur Silovs was looking like the starter. He was the first off the ice.
5 seconds, though.
He got what many describe as the usual starters chat from Ian Clark. And then Clark talked to DeSmith. And then they were both hanging out by the gate. And then Tocchet joined in the conversation. And the trainers were there. And the Canucks just putting up smokescreen here, going to make the Predators guess as to who the starting goaltender is for game 5. I saw our friend Irf Gaffar says he thinks it's going to be Artur Silovs here. Patrick Johnson as well.
That's via sourcing, folks. That's more than just reading the body language.
Right.
Before they even hit the ice, Irf and Patrick were saying that. So that's sourcing. So tend to want to lean in that direction. And technically, Silovs was the first guy off. But again, by moments, not by the usual few minutes.
And look, fair game here.
Yeah.
If you want the Predators, if you think there's a competitive advantage to the Predators not knowing who the starting goaltender is going to be until later today. I mean, I'm sure Andrew Burnett and the staff have gone through the scouting reports on both goaltenders with regards to where Silovs is weak or where they suspect that there's vulnerability. Same with Casey DeSmith. We know Casey in rebounds has been an issue.
Yeah, it might be a few more loose pucks around the crease. So if they knew it was DeSmith, they might try to reiterate to their group, to be ready for that. But I mean, these are minor adjustments.
And
especially this deep into a series when you've seen both goaltenders already.
That's right.
You saw Ian Clark working with DeSmith there in that video, absorbing pucks in close, not letting those rebounds bounce out, which of course has been an issue for DeSmith at times.
Yeah. So we'll find out later in the day, basically.
I mean, there was still some doubt even raised earlier today before they hit the ice of whether or not DeSmith would even back up. The fact that he's out there leads me to believe he's probably going to back up because, if Silovs gets injured early in the third period and he got the start, I'm pretty sure DeSmith can pull off 18 minutes. I think you have to guard against Tolopilo coming in here in an elimination game. You know,
I suspect both goaltenders will be dressed in uniform tonight.
Just quickly on that, Drance has noted that Tocchet implies that Casey DeSmith is likely to back up tonight.
There you go. Yes, he's literally
regardless of whether he starts. He served as the e-bug.
Yes. So Nikita Tolopilo, you can relax.
Bring your gear to the rink just in case.
Could you imagine if he had to play? Welcome to the Bigs, kid. Game 4.
I mean, it was on the table. I mean,
they were one injury away or one ventilation away from Nikita Tolopilo making his NHL.
It's like when Hedberg had that tweak, and they flashed to the e-bug. Who's the original e-bug?
Chris Levesque.
Chris Levesque.
Yep.
Hedberg got injured. He stuck it out, but it was that close.
Close.
Remember how hard Levesque was chewing his
gum
on the bench?
Yeah.
So, it's...
Hey, are you kidding me? Hey, we've talked about e-bugs many times in the past. It is truly one of the charming stories that comes out of an NHL season when...
David Ayers, Scott Foster.
Right.
We all remember where we were.
Who was the kid here for San Jose the one night? Local kid.
I don't remember San Jose. I remember Pittsburgh having to do an emergency call of a junior player from Tri-City at one point. I don't remember a San Jose one, though.
You mean you're not talking when DiPietro got shelled by San Jose?
No. San Jose played played an e-bug here one night. Because I can remember going into the Sharks post-game dressing room, and there was a player on the team who had played with him in junior who was basically passing a hat and making sure that the players on the Sharks ponied up to...
I think he might have just dressed, though. I don't think he played, did he?
I want to say he played.
There was a UBC goalie e-bug against the Blues once, I remember, because I remember Bennington came over and gave him some respect.
Anyways, I'll get to it eventually.
Easy knows it very worst.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving along. Same lineup.
Yeah,
we anticipate.
Which again, I mean, it's not a federal case at all here, but like you haven't played great hockey the last couple of games. You know, it does feel like Rick Tocchet's sticking with the dogma if I can't change the winning lineup, because there was plenty of room for improvement, and not that nibbling around the edges of the fourth line is necessarily going to change a ton. But I'm a little bit surprised by that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, has Phil DiGiuseppe been useful enough for you?
Yeah, probably not.
Not costing you per se, but...
Well, on that note, J-Pat notes that the Canucks are likely to send Podkolzin back to Abbotsford to get some playoff game action, because they don't want him sitting around without actually playing.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Incidentally, Jordan White.
Wow.
Of UBC, 2011 from Surrey, was the e-bug for the Sharks one night. And
did he actually hit the ice or just had the dress?
Yeah,
just had the dress.
I don't believe he played. I could have been
getting on the bench is a big enough thrill, you know. So yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that's the best part of the story is, you know, a lay citizen walks with NHL players for one day, right? Experiences what NHL players are like getting ready for a game, in the intermissions, in the post game. So yes.
And for those that don't know, my other work wife, Paul Dolan, his son is often the e-bug at Rogers Arena for the National Hockey League games. So whether it's for the home or roadside, SFU goalie. So it's been this close for another Dolan in a professional game.
A dream gig.
Yeah.
I just hope I'm work wife number one.
Depends on who's nicest. It's really,
Quinn Hughes. We're going to hear from him in a second. But first of all, how do you deploy him tonight? Now, in game 4, he was deployed very conservatively through 2 periods. And then in the third period, when they needed him, he played a lot. And he had enough in him to make that little juke at the blue line to set up the game-tying goal. What do you think the coaching staff has in store for Quinn Hughes? And can you see them rolling out the same deployment plan so long as the score remains close?
We're going to hear from him in a sec, but he said very abruptly and quickly, we're not going to bother playing it for you. Like, how do you feel? And he said, I feel great. I feel fine. So he's saying all the right things.
No quarters given in the Stanley Cup.
True enough. But I think you're just going to have to go on a minute by minute basis with a player like this and see how much he's hit, or in the early going. And
if you're winning the game, I would suspect you back off Hughes a little bit. If it's a tie game, if you're down a goal, I would suspect you back off Hughes a little bit.
This is why,
if you're trailing by a couple early, then I don't think you.
Oh no!
Yeah, then he's got to play, and he's got to play.
Which is why the arrival of a guy like Elias Pettersson and the continued good play of some of the other guys is so integral. Because what about the home side gets a 2-goal lead? What about you get afforded the benefits of that so that you can do things like lay off?
And the fact of the matter is for the purposes of this series, if Pettersson was going right now, you could shoulder, no pun intended, this injury to Hughes a little bit better, right? It would not be as concerning. But when you're in all these tight games in the third period, in part because you're not doing enough offensively, then that puts more load. That increases the worry that Hughes has to play more and get hit more. Let's hear from the Canucks captain on the Nashville Predators, who in Tocchet's words are running them.
In the first 2 games, I didn't get hit here, and I felt like I played really well. And obviously a little bit of a different story in games 3 and 4. Games 3 we had 12 shots on net and really defended the whole game. And then game 4, I think that kind of a similar game as well, where they were probably taking it to us. So I think that if we can play a little bit better, then those things will be limited.
He was followed up. Moj asked him the question. So the best defense is a good offense, and he said, yeah, and that's just it. Like the Canucks need to get back into a transition game where he's not being stapled in the end boards because they're never leaving the Canucks zone. They need to, and now with the last change, they have the opportunity to get preferable matchups and to make sure that there is a transition game where Quinn Hughes is in open ice and not in the corner getting stapled.
Do you think it's cross-talk its mind at all to roll 7 defensemen out at all?
I would bet it did.
Yeah.
To answer Blake's PDG question, frankly, I'd rather see a 7th defenseman than Podkolzin or PDG.
Yeah, that's probably more useful. Probably
that could well be something we see tonight.
Because if you do get a lead and you can skip the odd Hughes shift, and
or Blake, if he has to leave the hockey game,
yeah,
he left momentarily in game 5. So, no, I have long been a proponent that if your 4th line winger is not going to play a semi-regular shift and does not play special teams, I think you're better off dressing a 7th defenseman in those specific circumstances, and I think you might be looking at those specific circumstances.
Look at Florida and Tampa last night. Like, wouldn't it have been nice? Wouldn't it be nice for the Canucks to sort of run away with the game like that, and then after 35 minutes, Quinn Hughes just goes to the room because he can. That would be a luxury, but you'd be reticent to do that, leaving behind just the 5 defensemen. So it gives you some flexibility, gives you all sorts of extra tools. I wouldn't be against. We've been given no indication, we should say that there will be 7D, but I think it might be a smart play.
It's something that I think you need to think about at the very least.
Yeah.
And look, Di Giuseppe has been the 5th most used penalty killer in this series. He's playing a minute and a half, minute 24 average ice time per game.
That's
shorthanded.
probably 2 PK shifts you can get.
Yeah,
you can deal with that.
Pettersson is right close there. He's the 6th most used. They've used Lindholm and Bluger, Joshua and Mikheyev as your
primary
penalty killers. But if you were to take Di Giuseppe out, it looks Pettersson would probably elevate to be your number 5. Pius Suter would be next guy up.
Suter kills 2. So.
And JT Miller if he needed to.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you do have depth of penalty killer there. So I do think that's a luxury that would afford talking the coaching staff to go to 7 defensemen.
And people are lauding his penalty killing in the comments. Keep in mind, folks, like if Julesen's the guy that comes in, Julesen has been marvelous on the PK as well.
Yeah, and I thought Julesen got better in the one game he played. He was dreadful early on, but it was his first Stanley Cup playoff game. No, I mean, if you think PDG is indispensable on the penalty kill, then this conversation is over.
If he was indispensable,
if you think he's replaceable, if he's indispensable, he's probably one of your top 4 penalty killing forwards.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, making life easier on Hughes would be if the Canucks could actually get a goal in the traditional means. They have 3 5-on-5 even strength goals in the last 3 games. As J-Pat notes. Nikita Zadorov in game 2. Brock Boeser in game 4 before the 6-on-5 goals. And Elias Lindholm in overtime of game 4.
Mm-hmm.
Their other goals have been on the power play or 6-on-5. 2 goals, 6-on-5. 2 goals on the power play in this series in 11 attempts. They've taken 17 penalties to Nashville's 13. And so, yeah, I mean, as good as the power play looked in game 3, it was right back there with another 0-4 in game 5 or in game 4. 2 for 3 in game 3, 0 for 2 in game 4, 0 for 6 in the first couple of games here at Rogers Arena.
Well, the whistles have been put away too. There just have not been a lot of power plays in this series on the whole. But that makes the execution when you do get them. If you're only going to get 2 to 3 power plays, man, you'd love to be lethal when you're out there. So great that they were doing the extra work. Given how Brock Boeser has been scoring lately or in and around the crease, you'd think that power play has a better chance of having some success, because if they can get some loose pucks there, Boeser's been so good at the top of the crease here.
And it's interesting. I heard JT Miller say after, I believe it was after Game 4, that when he first got here, Boeser was a perimeter player. And I think that's fair, but I also think it's unfair to the early Brock Boeser, because his rookie season and his first year, Blake, before he suffered that, was it broken back, whatever it was, scary injury by the boards.
Clutterbuck.
Yeah. We were lauding Boeser for the fact that he wasn't just a great shooter, but also was a pretty high hockey IQ guy and good in tight spaces. Made a lot of plays in and around the goal mouth that were either finishing plays as goal scorer or setting up plays. As his career went on, it seemed like we found him less and less in that territory. And this year, I think one of the big changes for Boeser, and one of the reasons why he's a 40-goal man, is because of just how good he was in front of the net. As a screener, as a rebound and garbage guy, right? In and around the goal mouth, just over to the fly a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen him more in that area this year than I think you have in previous years. And of course, many of those years he was fighting injury that sadly has been the case for Brock. So yeah, in and around the goal area for Brock, or, top of the circles down shooter. That's the recipe, I think, for success.
But you know what's key for that is shots on goal, toward goal. And what I'm meaning is Elias Pettersson needs to get back to at least, was it game 2? Game 2. Game 2, no shots on goal. Bad.
9 attempts.
But putting shots on goal 9 times.
Yeah.
And if Brock Boeser's there to help convert some of those unconverted shots, I think the Canucks can make something work, especially on that power play. So we've now moved from Boeser to Pettersson here, in that Pettersson needs to get back to shooting the puck. Like the Canucks are probably not going to have the same kind of success like we did in Nashville. They've got to employ offense. Well, they have to think offense, and Elias Pettersson has to be a part of that solution, and that means shooting the puck.
I saw talk that said he's thinking too much, which I think is true.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a talk about having to shoot, which fair. I was thinking about this for me, especially early in the game. I think Elias has to change the narrative. I think he has to change the threat that he poses against the Nashville Predators. Now, his superpower, of course, much like the Twins before him, he gets the puck on his stick and everything sort of slows down around him, right? As everyone gets a little bit mesmerized, what can he do? That he's got that gift that a lot of the greats do, where it's a frantic game. He gets the puck on his stick and it's a calm, serene sort of scene. I think he's got to, especially early in this game, show more aggressiveness. So what does that mean? Yeah, that means shooting the puck. How about take the puck to the net? Or how about break into the offensive zone with some speed? Show the Nashville Predators and show your teammates that you're not content to just be a wallflower in this series. That you're going to do something, even if it's a little different, a little out of character, not necessarily his bread and butter, that is aggressive in nature with regards to having the puck and trying to score goals or set goals.
But also, Matt, it plants a seed to the opposition of, he's in a shooting mood tonight.
Exactly.
We got to watch out for him. He's shooting tonight.
Elias is going to come in with speed, is he? Or, Elias is going to try and bull rush the net. Something that's different than what you've seen through 4 games from Elias.
And even if it's fruitless, you declare to the Predators, okay, he has decided to play today. And I'm not saying he hasn't decided to play early, but that's going to be the message received by the Preds. He's made it a concerted effort to be involved here. Guys, look out for him.
And his teammates, too.
Yeah.
Totally. Elias has a different gumption tonight. He's got a different purpose. Yeah. He's willing to do things that are laying it all on the line, if you will.
If I'm Elias, I take two ill-advised shots early.
Right.
You know,
like you're at the point with Elias that just anything different is worth trying at this stage of the proceedings.
Yeah.
Because the guy on the half wall who wants to just slow things down and create a play, that ain't working. The guy on the half wall who wants to give it a beat or two before he shoots the puck and allows the shot blockers to get there, that ain't working. And of course, that traffic has to continue. It's one of the books on Saros. Two things about Saros going into this series that we talked about a little more in games 1 and game 2. Number one, that low blocker shot, that shot just under the blocker. That's the bullseye for them. That's the area where Saros struggles. And number two, because he's just not a big man in this era of gigantic goaltenders, if you get bodies in front, he is going to have more trouble than the next goalie up, because the next goalie up just has more physical mass and matter than he does to block shots that aren't necessarily fully seen or aren't seen off the stick.
The Predators have just concluded their game day skate. At the end of the game day skate, usually, folks, they just kind of trickle off at the end. Some guys stick around, shoot and stuff, and they just trickle off, at their own speed. Brunette gathered everybody at the end.
There you go, Coach.
For one final speech here of
appropriate.
Tonight's the night.
Appropriate.
And this is what I'm talking about earlier. Like this is a desperate team tonight.
So, and I'll be interested to hear the comments, but this is the us against the world spot that Brunette can play, right?
Yes.
Nobody thinks you're going to win this series. Everybody has counted you out. Nobody thinks you're going to respond given the way that game 4 went down. This whole market is sitting here planning the parade, or at least planning the party. You guys have a chance to author a different story.
And you guys are in charge of making your own luck. He's probably going to say, hey, everything lined up in their favor. That's what they needed to win. You do the work.
Our turn for a break.
Yeah.
The harder we work, the more likely we're going to get.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could this be Bloody Tuesday in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Across the league?
4 games going today. All of them 3-1. 3 home teams looking to close out, not just the Vancouver Canucks, but the Boston Bruins against the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Carolina Hurricanes against the New York Islanders, and then the Colorado Avalanche in the Manitoba capital looking to put a quick end to what was a very nice season for the Winnipeg Jets, who still await a save from Connor Hellebuck in this series.
For my own sake, I hope they finish their series. For all of our sakes, I hope the Hurricanes finish off the Islanders. We don't need to see more of that series.
Does.
No one needs that.
In fact,
it should have been a bye.
It has played out.
Yes.
There were really only 6 teams in the Eastern Conference this year that were playoff worthy. These playoffs could have gone on just fine without the Islanders and Capitals. They were not really of playoff grade, even of historical 7th or 8th seed grade.
There's a part of me that wants to see the Leafs lose tonight because it would maybe make them burn to the ground faster. No. Part of me wants them to lose in game 7, so that it hurts more.
In game 7.
Yeah. So
they need the rally here where everybody takes back all the mean things they said about Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews and Willie Nylander.
Yeah.
Only to have the heartbreak in game 7. And you know what? If they had a 3-goal lead in the third period in game 7 in Boston and blew it, that would.
Also, it's a good hate watch series, so I like to have the content around. So the longer we can have the content around, the better.
And the other thing is, it's 2 great hockey markets, although the building in Toronto is hardly a great hockey building right now.
Yeah. Well, some are taking issue with that. I also want the Jets to win. I also want the Jets to try to stay alive,
of course.
And that's just good fun hockey, that series too. So again, the good content.
The Jets are inoffensive. Nobody hates the Jets in Canada. You're just happy Winnipeg got its team back. Right?
And Bones is easy to cheer for.
Oh, Rick Bones is he's so easy to cheer for. The happy Haligonian.
And the more games we get to watch Nathan McKinnon play the sport of hockey is the better. So
absolutely. All right. It's a little bit of trivia for you here. Grady, feel free to chime. We're talking about series going on, teams advancing, of course. You advance in this series, you play into May. There are 5 NHL franchises that have never played a single game in the month of June. Who are they?
Seattle.
Seattle, very good, Grady.
Minnesota Wild.
Very good, Grady. Minnesota Wild.
Columbus Blue Jackets.
CBJ is another.
Nope, they went to the Stanley Cup.
I'm going to say the Coyotes, even their storied run.
Arizona Coyotes, who have been in a Western final but never a Stanley Cup final, so did not eke into the month of June. One more.
Well, the Jets / Thrashers? No.
Nope.
No.
They played a Western Conference final against Vegas.
That trickled in,
ago.
Yeah. Who is it?
The Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yes. Oh,
Never played a game in June. Really?
The last time they were in the Cup
That's a
final
great-
was
that's great barroom trivia right there.
1967.
Yeah.
When the Stanley Cup final was not
I
played
vaguely
in
remember
June.
this a year or two ago. This
They
stat came
have
out.
played in Western and Eastern conference finals in the interim, of course,
But shorter
but have
seasons
never
and-
played a game in the month of June.
which is unbelievable because they just keep pushing the start of the playoffs later and later.
No, I know.
But they've never gone deep enough.
This team get to the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah. Ha. That's what I have to say about that.
I couldn't believe that when I read that the other day. I'm like, what? Oh yeah, no, it makes sense. They don't ever get to the final. Their cup drought is not only since 67, their finals drought is 67 as well.
is the Shannon plan over? Are they trading Marner? What happens?
Oh,
here?
I think there will be significant changes if they lose this series. I agree with what
Sheldon
Blake said.
Keefe's out.
More so
yesterday.
tonight than in game
Well,
7.
yeah.
If they lose tonight, it's burn it to the ground. If Marner has a couple great games leading them to game 7, I think that's less so. But
You know, I gotta say, like, look, I think Brendan Shanahan has a lot of qualities, but when they hired him to be president of hockey operations, like, it's not like this guy had long experience of being a great team builder. So, you know, they hired a big name ex-player, Torontonian, to be their president of hockey operations and put everything in place. And in the early going, fair enough. But, you know, now it's at the point where you wonder, okay.
I know it's a
you still
results-based
believe it?
business, but I'll say
Coach for
this.
sure.
I'll
Coach for
I'll say this.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of years where I've looked, I mean, maybe a couple of the last 5 where I've looked at the Toronto Maple Leafs and said, I think they might have got it this year. Like, there's been a lot of years that you can ultimately criticize Shannon because he's never got it done. But there's been years where I thought, this is the year. They're making it to the conference final at least with this team. So I think they deserve some credit. Like, if you get duped by a player who is dominant, and we're talking about well over 100 points, like a Marner, you expect that there's some carryover into the playoffs eventually, especially after a bunch of years of trying this playoff thing.
I thought it was interesting when Dubas was building the all offense team. I thought it was a smart recalibration to bring in a little bit more defensive oriented players, grittier players. And then they just sort of lost their way. And frankly, I think when you look at the totality of it, you know, your defense has to be a little better than just Morgan Riley and Hope Betts. I know they've tried, and some guys didn't work out. It was the Kings player they added who
Jake
Muzzin, who's had the big injury. But I just think they needed to look, especially if you were going to try and get away with the type of goaltending that the Leafs were trying.
Now,
to get
people
away
have seen
with, right?
how hard it is to get points.
If you have the stud goaltender, then maybe you can get away with a bad third pair and play 4 serviceable guys. But if you don't have that stud goaltender, then I think you need to be stout, certainly on your blue line, but most preferably throughout your lineup. And I don't think they've ever had that mix or balance.
Marner's getting a lot of heat. In the last 2 playoff years, he's been above a point per game in the playoffs. 14-11 last year, 8-7 the year before that, and go all the way back to 17-18. He was 9 points in 7 games there too. So, like, you've seen now, folks, watching the Canucks, like, above a point per game in the playoffs is a very nice playoff series. It's a very nice playoff run. Like, you are doing stuff. This is different than the regular season.
Do you know how many points John Tavares has in the series? 1 goal.
Yeah. Here's what I will say. You talked about hate watching that series. If the Bruins lose it from here, that works too.
It's also a win. It's also a
That
win.
works too. All right, moving along. The Calder Trophy finalists have been announced. North Vancouver's Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks is one of three. Brock Faber, the fine defenseman with the Minnesota Wild, and Luke Hughes, brother to Quinn, with the New Jersey Devils. I think Bedard is going to win it.
Yep.
You know, leading rookie scoring is typically a big feather in the cap. I thought there was a compelling case for Brock Faber to win the Calder Trophy. I am interested to see how close it's going to be.
I don't think I believe
frankly,
this.
If Bedard stays healthy all year, I think he wins it going away, but he didn't. So
I don't think I believe this, but should there be a trophy for best forward or like best rookie or best rookie defenseman?
So there's an all rookie team.
Yeah. So you get your recognition enough there.
So
Yeah,
all
that's
three of
fair.
these guys will be on the all rookie team.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess.
You know, Faber and Hughes will be the defense. Bedard and a couple of forwards, and Kochetkov, I think, will be the goaltender down in Carolina.
Rarely do goalies even have a chance to be rookie of the year because they're often weaned in.
Well, I mean, if
they're often weaned in, so they don't have that transcendent 50 game season.
Steve Mason way back.
Steve Mason. Did Andrew Raycroft win rookie of the year?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did Jim Carey win rookie of the year, or was that just a Vezina?
Just Vezina, I think. He was old when he broke through.
Okay. Who else, Grady?
Rookies of the year?
That were goalies? Ooh.
Not many. Patrick Waugh, did he win after the playoff run? The successful playoff
Dryden
run?
won, of course, because he won the Calder the year after he won the Conn Smythe.
Evgeny Nabokov.
Nabokov. I was going to say, I know there's another one, somewhat recent vintage. Eddie Belfour won it 1 year. Marty Brodeur won it 1 year as well.
Tom Barrasso.
So you're pretty
at like 18 or 19 years old.
You're pretty. Steve Mason and
Ken
Andrew
Dryden?
Raycroft stand out there, don't they? Because the other guys are minted Hall of Famers, basically. It's rare. It's rare.
Anyways, that's at the still yet to be announced NHL awards ceremony in Vegas before the draft at the Sphere. We'll let you know where that is, when that is.
They might just do it impromptu, like in the middle of dueling pianos. They'll just be like, "Oh, hey!"
Honestly, they could find worse backdrops than dueling pianos in New York, New York.
You love
and
that
student, no,
you love the dueling pianos.
So, last year when we were in Vegas, I took her to dueling pianos. She had a blast. So then we come out of the Springsteen concert at T-Mobile last month, whenever we went, and she said, "What do we do now?" I said, "We're right here at New York, New York. We have to go to dueling pianos."
It's just every night. You don't need tickets for it, right? You just show up.
So there's usually a chart at the door. It has varied in the past. The guy said to me 2 times ago, "We're over capacity, but if you slip me this, I'll let you in." And then this time around, I think it was $20, which by Vegas standards is cheap.
Yeah, totally.
There's not a lot of. So we get on in, everybody's singing. Sure enough, we make friends with our neighbors. Sure enough, they're 2 hockey fanatics from small town Minnesota. When the guy found out what I did, he just wanted to talk my ear off about hockey.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Of course, Carmen was quick with the, "Oh, you're from Minnesota, you hockey fans?" He covers hockey. Oh.
Open up that can of worms.
Yeah. Anyways, delightful couple. Down the I-5, as we mentioned yesterday, Dave Haxtell out as head coach. And since then, some details from Emily Kaplan of ESPN. Certain players said in their exit meetings, "If he's back, we don't want to be." Effectively forced Ron Francis's hand. Jeff Baker writing in the Seattle Times today saying the Kraken need to get themselves back to relevancy in the market, in a crowded sport market.
Hey, Mariners are good this year. Seahawks are starting to
UW
build
went to the
again.
national championship game, and UW actually brought in Steve Ballmer to talk to the team yesterday. This is after Bill Belichick has been around there. Of course, his son Steven is coaching there. Anyways, and a lot of people now connecting dots, rightfully or wrongfully, that Rod Brindamore's in the final year of his contract. Of course, Ron Francis from the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh, boy.
Will there be a reunion? Will Rod the Bod come home to the West Coast? Campbell Rivers, Rob the Bod, and coach the
He
Kraken.
could commute from Campbell River.
I don't see it for a lot of reasons. Number one, I just think it's a little different the way Tom Dundon runs that franchise down in Carolina. And I do think he's going to re-sign, extend Brindamore. Also, I mean, Ron Francis had Bill Peters there, remember?
Mm.
You know, like
Yeah.
Bill. So, you know, Brindamore really elevated this current management group more so than Ron Francis. And then there's Kevin Weeks with a cryptic text. What was it? A picture
Just
of the
Roberto Clemente Bridge
in Pittsburgh.
with the googly eyes emoji, suggesting there might be news there.
Right.
There's been news now today that Tom Fitzgerald and the Devils have asked to speak to him.
Sullivan?
Yeah. But were denied.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because the Penguins know of something else that's happening with Mike Sullivan. Maybe there's a chance he's going somewhere else.
Yeah.
Who else did I read? Somebody was prognosticating that maybe it was Weeks. It was Weeks suggesting somebody's about to break the Mike Babcock.
Right.
I would say it's a glass ceiling. But you know, the top end of what coaches can make, that someone's on the verge of making that. Well, where and who? We'll find out.
So is the suggestion if the Leafs lose that MLSE is going to open up the...
I mean, they
you
said
can't trade for coaches or executives anymore, remember?
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is there a current coach that deserves that money?
Well, Mike Sullivan would probably...
Rob Brindamore, maybe. Rob Brindamore.
Well, but Brindamore doesn't have a cup. Mike has 2.
Yeah, but still.
Is John Cooper, because that was the next place I was going. Is that it for Steven Stamkos in Tampa? UFA to be didn't want to take on his future with the club after the loss. But the Tampa Bay Lightning, methinks, are at the end here. After a glorious run that produced 2 Stanley Cups and a couple other appearances in the Stanley Cup final. The Tampa Bay Lightning are out in round 1. Blake, they are without first, second, third, and fourth round draft picks in June. They have a 5th, a 6th, and 3 7ths. They're without their first round pick next year as well. You look at the age of some of the players on that team. Kucherov may well win the Hart. He's 30 years old. Stamkos is 34. Victor Hedman is now 33. Andrei Vasilevsky is 29. So are we looking at Julian Breezebaugh completely refashioning the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Well, if he had some uncomfortable...
day the music died.
If he had some uncomfortable conversations with a couple of those veterans about their no-move clauses and such, I mean, you could rebuild pretty quickly. You get some assets back for a couple of those pieces.
Hedman has a modified no trade with a 10-team list. Kucherov has a full no move. Braden Point has a full no move. Vasilevsky, it's a full no move. So it would appear if you are deconstructing the Lightning, 33-year-old Victor Hedman with his modified no trade and 1 more year at 7.87 is probably the most tradable piece.
Yeah.
Or do they reallocate that Stamkos money and try to retool? They got Hagel still there, Cirelli.
That's possible as well, Grady.
Yep.
Sergachev is still a hell of a player coming back from injury.
I think possible as well. They've got $75 million committed on a cap of 87, so they don't have a lot of wiggle room there.
I think they could torch somebody with a Hedman trade.
Absolutely. Even on 1 more year, I think there's somebody out there that gives you sun, moon, and stars for Victor Hedman.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably going to be, if he's not a Norris finalist,
so you get cap space there. You probably get a roster player back in that package, and you're probably not that much worse off.
A roster player. I think you may get a roster player prospect and pick.
That's what I'm saying. But you're like, if you get a roster player that's especially a defender, I mean, you're not that much far removed.
Yeah.
And as long as they have the goalie and Kucherov doing his thing and Points still producing, they will be competitive. The question is that good enough to get back to the level they have?
And especially because if you look at their cup teams and their rise,
So much depth.
They got so much out of late round draft picks, undrafted guys. I mean, they found players just about everywhere.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to sustain that. And I'm not sure they necessarily have the same push from below that they had in their heyday. So, but that's a fascinating team to watch in the summer because, you know, as much as Vinny Lecavalier meant to that team in that market, Blake, and of course winning the first Stanley Cup there with Torts, I think it's fair to say Stamkos has surpassed, right?
Mhm.
They won 2 cups.
Yeah.
And he's been a career Lightning player as well.
Just wrapping up some of the game day skate stuff for the Canucks. Adam Kilman had that Taka did say that it is DeSmith dressing tonight for sure. The both of those 2 guys will be the 2 goalies dressed for tonight's contest. And Roman Josi said he lost track of how many stitches he got on
his ear.
On the ear. I mean, if you happen to get in a little skirmish with Roman Josi, do you just give him a little bit of a helmet twist there?
Well,
and
if they're targeting Hughes, right?
You know, instead of a face wash, you give him a little ear rub.
Yeah, don't take a penalty doing it, but
yeah.
Playoffs are near, and we have an army. Nation Gear ready to gear you up for Vancouver's playoff run. Shop the exclusive We Have an Army playoff tee and more at nationgear.ca. Let's get into today's menu. It is brought to you by our friends at Greta Bar. Greta, fantastic spot. Pre-game, post-game. Of course, we've been there last couple of games enjoying the festivities. And if you're in the neighborhood or looking for a place to watch your arena, check it out, 50 West Cordova at Greta. We'll talk to Rob Williams here, the Daily Hive. We'll talk Hughes. We'll talk Pettersson. We'll talk about the game. Rob, of course, also on Viewing Party Beat, and it's our first chance to talk to him since American Sim came out last week and said what he said about lack of viewing parties. Also, viewing parties going on in municipalities around Vancouver. We'll talk to John Shannon as well. John, very close, worked many years with Bob Cole on Hockey Night in Canada. So John shares some stories and memories of the late, great play-by-play man, Bob Cole, who passed away last week at age 90. And there's a memorial service in Newfoundland, his native Newfoundland, later this week that John will be attending. Okay, time now for our Bet 365 best bets. And Blake, we have Boeser already to get a point in this game. There's a first 10 minutes tab on Bet 365, and there's a bunch of props therein. And of course, the best part about this, Grady, is you know whether you're a winner or a loser within the first 10 minutes, and then you have ample opportunity to bet the rest of the game, right?
Yes.
Is that how you do it?
Well, when I win, which is not often.
Right. Both teams to score in the first 10 minutes. Now,
it's aggressive.
Both teams scored in the first 10 minutes of Sunday's Game 4. I can see the Canucks coming out fast from the home team, looking to cement the series win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with some goaltending uncertainty, could see Nashville getting an early one too. Both teams to score in the opening 10 minutes at plus 650. Giddy up.
Juicy.
They have these bet boost parlays, these 3-way parlays.
Oh yeah,
some of them are.
I'm loving exploring the Bet 365 menu.
I mean, this isn't my sanctioned line here, but they've got. But this is pretty tantalizing. So a money line Canuck bet.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Hughes with 1+ assist, and Brock Boeser to score at plus 500. That's pretty tantalizing. But I'm going to go a little safer than that.
Oh,
I'm just going to go. I'm going to give up a goal and a half here.
You're going to just Canucks by 2.
Yeah.
Empty netter or
exactly. Like because I think if it's a close game, I think Nashville throws everything they can at the wall, and I think the gaping cage will be there for 5 minutes.
And goaltender out early. We talked to Crawford about it yesterday.
Yeah,
I pulled my goalie earlier now than I used to. Patrick Waugh, of course, taught the league this.
In an elimination game, I think it even goes a minute earlier than you otherwise would have done it. So plus 205 for the Canucks by 2.
That's from Bet 365. proud partner of Sekeres Price. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Open that account using code VANBONUS altogether. VANBONUS. Rob Williams coming up next. Northlands Golf Course. Download the free app and book tee times with a touch of your thumb. And while you're on course, open the app for hole-by-hole GPS and track your score. 6 to 90-day reservations. Jump the queue. Lock in your date for $10 per player booking fee. Limited daily availability. Check it all out. golfnorthlands.com.
In a season like this, you never want to miss a single second of what's happening on the ice, and you want to be around your fellow fans, right? Well, Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova, the perfect spot to do so. Hey, if you've got tickets, a great place to pre and post. They've got drink specials every single day. And if you don't have tickets, well, stick around and soak up the atmosphere with all your fellow fans, play all the great video games and air hockey, great air hockey set up as well at Greta Bar YVR. We'll see you there, 50 West Cordova.
Rob Williams joins us, the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports Vertical. Rob, the hockey guy on Twitter. So what do you think? They wrap it up tonight?
I think it would be definitely in their best interest to wrap it up tonight. I think this is a really, really important game. To not have to fly back to Nashville, not extend the series, multiple days. Quinn Hughes is banged up. Other players have got bumps and bruises. I think you need your team to be as healthy as possible into the next round, if possible, if you make it that far. And so I think it's a massive, massive game. Do they do it? I don't know. My confidence is waning in this team, given what we've seen so far. We haven't seen their best yet. That kind of makes me think that we're overdue from seeing them break out here a little bit more. So I do think they'll wrap it up tonight, but it's been a very close series, and they're lucky to be up 3-1.
Yeah, they haven't been the better team for 2 straight games. So
those are the road games, though. That's
right. And Rob's also right that probably brings them closer to being the better team. It's not like this is a spectacular Nashville club that they can't keep up with. Where's your concern level with Hughes? Watching him play and noticing not just the low minutes, comparatively speaking, but the way he is playing those minutes.
Yeah, I mean, still was able to pull off the absolutely spectacular play at the blue line for the tying goal. So he does appear to be able to gut through it to some degree. But yeah, like he's not. If you're not 100%, like you're not going to get 100% output, right? Like it's very, very difficult. Yeah, pretty high concern level of what the rumor, I guess, is it's a shoulder. I mean, a shoulder is a tough injury to play through. That affects your shot. That affects, going into a corner and being, afraid of somebody hammering you because you've got a bum shoulder or something like. So if it is indeed that, like that's a tough injury to play through. At least it doesn't affect his legs, right? Like he can still skate like the wind. So that's a plus. But yeah, no, I think like going into this series, like if you were to say like, geez, who are the 2 players you absolutely need healthy? You'd say Thatcher Demko and Quinn Hughes, and look where we're at. So yeah, I think it's very, very important to get Hughes healthy as possible. I know a lot of players are playing through things at this time of year, but boy, they need him as healthy as possible.
You can't acquire new players, and maybe this goes into the injury column as well, but dropping Elias Pettersson into this lineup would be nice. And in a lot of ways, if he has a good game, it's like you're getting a new player back. He's treaded water. He at times he's been more costly than he's been helpful. That's for sure. So if Elias Pettersson can just be Elias Pettersson, my goodness, I think the Canucks look like they're probably 25% better immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and speaking of players that people wonder if he's injured, I mean, I think people are wondering if Pettersson's injured just because he's playing so poorly. I was in the media scrum yesterday with Rick Tocchet, and I mean, if he's playing through a serious injury, then he's hiding it. Then the coach is not really tipping his hand, I don't think, right now, because Tocchet was talking about Pettersson needs to stop thinking so much. Clearly framed this as a mental issue. He said that the Pettersson needs to just move his feet. It was one of the things he said. Compared him to, or not compared him, but pointed to guys like McDavid and McKinnon, just like, get your feet moving, like watch what will open up if you just get your feet moving and just go. And I think that's quite clear. Like I think we've seen, like, not just Pettersson, but as a team, as the team as a whole, I think have been a bit rattled by how good Nashville was at blocking shots and affecting their shot in game 2. That since then they're really trying to overthink things now. They're really trying to they're going, oh, Jesus, it's going to get blocked. I don't want to shoot it. And I think that's affecting them. And Pettersson's the probably the best example of, like, getting opportunities to shoot on the power play from his spot, and looks like he wants to do anything but shoot.
Rob, moving along to the fun and games around the hockey in this playoff series, because there are fun and games.
We hope.
Just responsible safety. Drove by Rogers Arena Sunday. Roger and his stick and towel are behind a fence.
We saw this coming in a zillion miles away.
Mm-hmm. No more climbing Roger, which begs the question: are they going to climb Pat now? So give me somebody on top of the big Irishman's shoulders at the plaza tonight or after the game.
Not as big a drop if you fall from that one, though. I think, which is not as big a concern. I don't know how sturdy the Rogers hockey stick is up in the air though there too. So that was you don't want to break the statue. That's another concern.
That'd be bad.
Right? Yeah. No fireman climbing Rogers' stick.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was surprised that wasn't behind a fence like the day after game 1. As soon as he saw that video go viral, I thought, oh no, like that's going to be behind a fence. I saw a lot of people go, oh my God, Canucks fans, like, this is why we can't have nice things and whatnot. It should be said, this exact same thing happened in Edmonton. There were people straddling the Wayne Gretzky statue 2 years ago. I wrote about it myself, and it was behind a fence for the rest of the playoff run. So this is what passionate hockey markets do. We climb our beloved statues after big wins. It's I do get a kick out of some of the discourse now. Like, of course, now that the TV news media are into this, like, it's not just the sports news media. The more newsy people are starting to cover the Canucks. They're maybe not as and it's fair. They're not as familiar with the team and with hockey and with the Canucks, perhaps, but like, the talk about, and it's coming from the mayor as well, the talk about, like, oh my God, we've had a riot. Like, it's the first round, guys. Like, I sure as hell hope to God there's no riots in the first round. Be prepared, have the police on standby, but you don't need the riot police at the doors just yet. Like, we've not reached a fever pitch like we saw in 2011. If there is going to be trouble, this is not emulating 2011 in the finals at all. Like, we had I think people that are not as familiar with the team or think, oh my God, this is the same thing, and it's like, no, like, this was 2011 was 2 months of build up, and it was
3 years of build up though too. Like, this feels like gravy still for everybody. I would be surprised if we ever get to that point. Like we did.
Like, that team was expected to win. This was still joyous. Rob, when I heard the mayor speaking on this last week, he sounds scared to death.
He does, yeah.
Like, I know he's not a traditional politician, and there's a lot of things that are new for him, but he sounds absolutely petrified of sanctioning one of these. And look, I understand the budget rationale, right? And fair enough. You can put it in those terms. A lot of slick politicians will go that route and make the case on pure finances alone. This matter of fact, was speaking with a VPD officer Friday at our event at Greta, who was right there in 2011, assigned to downtown, and was one of the officers doing his best at the riot. And he said, I agree with the mayor that we could have had twice as many police officers, and there still would have been problems in 2011. Do you think that he is going to get public pressure on this if they continue marching forward in the Stanley Cup playoffs, or do you think this is a closed file at this stage based on his comments last week?
I mean, I think there's already some public pressure. Rob the hockey guy was writing on this, for crying out loud.
Oh my goodness.
I think there's some public pressure. Is it enough that like he's going to have to do something? I don't know about that. And then the ironic part about this is if you just start having, like, if you start the viewing parties in the first round where there's much less risk of trouble, you can start it slow and then build it up towards the finals and learn lessons and then have everything in order. If they just start parachuting this in for the finals, and then that's going to be, I mean, to me, that's even riskier, right? So I don't know that the city, like, here's the thing is I think that a lot of people are viewing this in a binary state here, where it's either we do the same parties as we did in 2011, Georgia Street, have thousands of people, almost no control on who's coming in and what they're bringing in, or we have nothing. And it's like either riot, like huge risk of a riot, or nothing. And that's just not the case. Like, look at every other big city. Look at the Leafs. Look at Maple Leaf Square. Like, the Raptors won an NBA championship. It was under control. Like that wasn't a trouble spot.
And idiots live in every city. You are always going to have to deal with idiots.
Exactly. So in one sense, I don't know who to blame here. I think that's my problem, is that in one sense, I thought what the mayor said was ridiculous, but at the same time, like, should the city be in business of, running parties? Like, never mind allowing parties, but like running them? Because what I think they need to do is have fencing. They need to have a reserved space. I think they need to charge money to get in. I think they need to have security. Like, I don't know if the city...
It's not the city's business. No, the Canucks need to do it, but in concert with the city.
No, I disagree. I think the city has to take the lead hand. It is more likely to be on city property than Canucks property. The city has to deal with the security cost and deployment, so that makes more sense to me. I disagree with Rob that it has to be ticketed, or at least that it has to cost money. You want to do tickets and, set a max capacity, but, I think the spirit of these things is that it should be free. People getting together to watch the game, which they can watch it for free at home in most cases.
But no right. Other teams are no other cities are doing this. It's the teams that are doing this. All Jurassic Park and all that sort of stuff, that's put on by the teams,
because those teams have the land that are inviting people to their property to do it.
Scotia, no, Toronto, that's the street.
What's going on in Winnipeg?
Maple Leaf Squares is on. I'm less familiar with Winnipeg because
that's in the street too. That's just in the street.
So you're telling me the Jets are organizing that?
Yes. Yeah, that's just in the street outside the arena.
Okay, but surely the city of Winnipeg is involved from a security point of view, and
from
a fencing and all that.
Of course they're involved, but they're not paying for the fencing. No, the team pays for that. The team pays for all of that stuff.
Is the team paying for the security?
I mean, I don't have
Rob. What do you know? What do you know?
Yeah.
I think you need further investigation on this.
I don't know who's paying for what exactly, but it's quite clear from what the Leafs are doing. Like, they send out a press release every day with all the activations that they have going on there. I've been to that space. It's on the street outside of Scotiabank Arena. I mean, just theoretically for myself, like the Canucks are going to benefit greatly from an event like this. They should be putting it on. And, you can have, and you can really, you can make a lot of the money back, right? Sell merchandise, sell food and drinks, like do all these different things at your viewing party. Because like these parties aren't just a screen and a parking lot, right? Like there's other things around it. In Toronto, they got a DJ, they got prizes, they got there's a whole production to it. It's a whole other they have the game production inside the arena. There's a whole other production outside. And to me, if the big worry is, safety and everything around the city, which it seems to be with the mayor, like they've already held a viewing party with 11,000 people downtown, and nobody was worried because it was indoors, ticketed, they had security, it was in Rogers Arena. So just have fewer than 11,000 people, have some security, have crowd control, do the same, apply all the same principles, and have it outdoors, and you should be fine.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure I have the most faith in the Vancouver Canucks' ability to organize. I still don't think it's a particularly well run organization on the business side, and so plus the Canucks Sports Entertainment doesn't do a lot of goodwill. Like that's not something that's their brand. So
they want to make a buck on everything.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So if we're waiting for Canucks Sports Entertainment to take the lead, I think we're waiting on the wrong agent, the wrong actor here.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think if the mayor can get over his trembles about this, that there is something to be gained by rejuvenating these things. Hey, until then, we have Scott Road, right?
The people have taken it into their own hands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love the scenes at Scott Road. They're incredible. It's the most ridiculous of all the party. I mean, of a celebration spot. Like it's not a great like spot to celebrate, right? Like it's not like a square. It's not like an area where everyone just waits at the street corner. They wait for the traffic to go by, and then they cross the street.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just something simple and wholesome about it, I think.
Yeah.
It is kind of cool seeing, the cars drive by, and I'm sure people make a special trip to the area to just drive by and honk their horns. You got people with like pretend Stanley Cups, people hanging out of sunroofs. A lot of police presence on the corner there just to ensure safety. I think it looks like they're blocking a lane of traffic in each direction because of this. But it's incredible, like first round, and there's these celebrations just out in the street like that. It's a cool sight to see, and I think it's especially cool to see. I think also just the demographics. I don't think these are mostly Indo-Canadians celebrating in the street. I think there's a cool like immigrants to Canada feel to this that I don't know that you see that in anywhere else in North America, probably, right? Like, so I think that's also a very cool element, for the celebration.
Got to hand it to everybody out there. The spirit is incredible. You're right. Like, it's not perfect. In fact, it's completely suboptimal. It's people crossing it's an intersection parade, basically, and yet it works, and the visuals are compelling.
And for a city that gets a bad rap on crime and all that sort of stuff, we're not hearing a lot of bad stories about what's happening either. So
it is festive. It is joyous. It is exactly the sort of spirit that the Stanley Cup playoffs and the local team doing well encourage. And so I'm pleased to see that. And I sure hope, especially if they advance, that we're taking another look at viewing parties.
Yeah, we've done them successfully before. We do the fireworks successfully. We can congregate in large groups and not have riots. We have proven that.
And the other part is, like, other cities are doing this successfully. So why not us? Like, surely we can make it to that bar.
Yeah.
So I do think this is a funny part of the story now too. We're seeing all the other municipalities now like keeping up with the Joneses. Like City of Delta is doing one outside. I saw Port Coquitlam had one. It looks like it's in a community center. So I'm like, I don't know if that looks all that cool, but like they're selling beer and hot dogs and stuff. So I'm like, okay, that's all right. I see City of Burnaby now is opening up a community center. So like, I feel like every city is, each city is introducing a version of the party.
There's some sense into this too, guys, from a safety standpoint. If they are scared, is that if everybody stays in their own hometowns to do this, and home neighborhoods, I mean, the ne'er-do-wells have no problem screwing everybody else's shit up. But are they likely to shit in their own backyard? Maybe not. So I think there's an element where that works better too, where if there's a bunch of satellite events, maybe there's less likely for their things to go pear-shaped, maybe in their own minds.
I agree with Rob. Other politicians are looking around and going, there's territory to be gained here. Well, we can do this. I've got confidence and faith in our team to be able to pull this off, and people want to congregate, right? Like they want to be with their neighbors, with their fellow citizen watching this. Because at the end of the day, it is, a banner of civic pride, Canucks. All right, Rob, marvelous stuff. Thank you for this. We'll catch up next week. Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now. The Vancouver Canadians are back at the net. Catch fireworks, giveaways, and Friday nooners all spring and summer long. Get your tickets at CanadiansBaseball.com. Hey, you. No, not you. You. Are you an owner-operator? Do you have a fleet of trucks or cars? Well, CalPro Plus might be the dedicated tire program just for you.
Free program includes exclusive deals and savings, price match guarantee, flexible financing, and preferred pricing on everything you drive.
Also, you get a dedicated member support line. That means that you can get questions answered. Also, they'll source and recommend the right tire for you, your application, and your budget.
Cal Tire's network of 260 plus stores are here to help so you can focus on the road ahead. Sign up for free at calproplus.com. Joined now by the former executive producer, Hockey Night in Canada, co-host of the Bob McCown podcast, the one and only John Shannon. John, good day.
Hello, boys. How are you?
Mm-hmm. We're okay. First and foremost, we want to send along our condolences and sympathies. We know you were close friends with Bob Cole and worked side by side with the legendary play-by-play man for a number of years. We lost him last week at age 90. So our condolences and sympathies, John.
Yeah, he was a great man, a great broadcaster, great man, great family man. Kristen, Hillary, Megan, Robbie, his kids, his former partner, Karen. He always talked about them more. I think that it's been befitting of his career that his family have now been able to see he did and how much this country loves him and how much the hockey world loves him for the last 4 or 5 days.
He became synonymous with Leaf calls because it's just the bulk of his work was for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And of course, out in these parts, as you well know, John, anything Leaf generally gets tinged with something untoward. And I think at times you saw a smattering of that. But overall, and we saw it while he was with us, and certainly after he passed, is ultimately that wasn't held too much against him. People just knew him as the voice of hockey in this country for the last generation, basically.
No, and in my opinion, being there at the time, Bob Cole was the first announcer not joined. In 1997, we had Danny Gallivan in Montreal, and you knew that if you heard Danny, it was going to be Canadians do the Maple Leafs, and you heard Jimmy do the Canucks. And so that next step for the show was a network voice. And that network voice was Bob Cole, and he carried that mantle. I think that there are, at the 94 final, which he called for Hockey Night, he did a great job for the Canucks. The Oilers in 84, the Flames in 2004. Yes, he did a lot of Maple Leaf games, a lot of Montreal games, but he did every city, and he did them with the absolute same aplomb that he would do every game on his resume. That was the thing that was amazing about Bob. He was always at the top of his game.
When did your association begin with him, John? Take us back.
So I as a $10 a game guy, and by the way, the better payment was getting the baby blue jacket. my job was to do whatever Mr. Cole needed. If Mr. Cole needed a can of Coca-Cola, then I got him a can of Coca-Cola. Side by side, I did a whole couple of super series with him in the broadcast booth around the NHL, doing Soviet versus Canada. Became the synonymous voice with those series because of what he had done in 72 and 74, obviously, and 76 with the famous, "They're going home, Dick. They're going home. We took it. We were there, and they're going home." Anyway, so and by the way, magic of Bob Cole. Everybody has a Bob Cole impression.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
I mean, one of my favorite stories of all time. And maybe next time he's on with you, you can ask him this. We're doing a game in Los Angeles, and Mark Crawford is coaching the Kings at the time, and he's coming, and he comes around the corner, and the first thing he does is he breaks into a Bob Cole impression. And who's sitting in the corner but Bob Cole? And then he realized, oh my goodness, there's the original. I better not say much more.
Yeah.
But Crow was one of those impression all the time, but we all did, and he knew it, and he loved it, and he was just
He was one of a kind.
and laughing with him.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if this works.
When-
Grady, can I get a can of Coca-Cola, please?
Yeah.
Just want to see if it works.
Hey,
So, by the
John.
way, I will tell you the story though. When I got the job as executive producer of Hockey Night, Bob phoned and said, "Well, John, just don't tell them we started together and you were getting me cans of Coke."
John, who put him together with Harry Neal? How did that association begin? Because needless to say, the former Canucks executive and head coach was a natural in the role as analyst and the perfect yin to Bob's yang. Tell us that story.
Yeah, I had left by then and playoff runs with the Canucks as a studio analyst. And then when Harry decided that he was going to get out of broadcast career, the executive producer at the time was a guy named Don Wallace. And it just so happened Harry wanted to live in a Saturday night commentator in Toronto because of things were changing. Gary leaving the organization, going back to New York. So it was by coincidence Harry and Bob got put together, and they did it for a long, long time. And you're right, there was a mutual respect. Speak when Bob was speaking, like a lot of color commentators feel they have to do now. And Bob really appreciated Harry. So it was something that probably because they were around the same age, they worked well together. Broadcaster, and one was a professional hockey guy, and there was mutual respect.
Look, they had incredible moments together, but I will also never forget, and partly because our old friend Barry McDonald used to get such a kick out of it, I believe it was the night the power went out in Boston, John, the breaker, the big noise.
Mm.
Harry says to Bob, "You jumped 4 feet." And Bob said, "I did."
Well, you know, the Bob was such a great player. He was, you know, he's on Mount Rushmore for me, as everybody has said probably for the last 6 days. To ad lib when it wasn't a game was a different story. One of my favorite ones was one of the early Islander Stanley Cup runs. We thought we'd have each commentator start the series. So, you know, Hodge was the host, and Dornhofer made a comment, and Mickey Redmond made a comment, and then it was Bob Cole's turn. And I said, so Bob, dressing room, you need to give us 15 seconds, just 15 seconds of what you think about the series. So Bob came on and said, well, This game is going to be as good as Mike Palmateer will make it, and the Leafs have a chance. And we're at 9 seconds. You got to give me more than 9 seconds. Blake, you'd appreciate this.
Yes.
You got to give me more than 9 seconds. 3, 2, 1, cue. Well, Mike Palmateer have a real chance to make a difference for the Maple Leafs. And if he can, the Leafs can win. 15 seconds. 15 seconds. Exactly the same words.
Exactly.
Exactly the same words.
Amazing.
6 seconds
Well, we talked
longer.
about it. We talked about it last week, John. He wasn't going to do storytelling. Like, you weren't going to get out. I was talking to so-and-so the other day, and he told me this, this, and this. He wasn't going to try and analyze the game outside of like the total obvious, like, you know, the Canucks are 0 for 5 on the power play tonight, something like that. He was going to describe what was in front of him.
Yep.
And pretty much that's it. But he was going to do it better than just about anyone else and leave everything else for the guy beside him, whether it was Harry Neal
You know,
or others.
the celebration is Friday in St. John's. And there's about 12 or 13 of us going out for a day and a half. And there's going to be tears. There's going to be tears on Friday. But I can guarantee you one thing. The laughs we are going to have, reminiscing about what a great person Bob was and how much of a great teammate he was, will certainly make up for the tears that are going to be flowing on Friday afternoon at the funeral.
Well, you have to let us know how that goes. We're looking forward
please,
to some reviews of that.
It is going to be. It is.
Yeah.
It is. I'm telling you what. You don't look forward to going to funerals?
Mm-hmm.
There'll be some stories of that one. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everybody's happy.
Hold on. Grady, are we okay here? John, you're pausing a fair, it's pausing and catching up a fair bit here. It's quite staccato. Grady, are you sure that's going to...
It's pretty borderline.
Sometimes it does catch up. Sometimes,
yeah, because sometimes we're missing a word or two on the other end.
Change to my
John,
iPad. I'll change. No problem.
Yes, please.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'll pause. All right.
3, 2, and 1. Obviously, Canucks fans are very, very excited that John Shorthouse is calling the Canucks series on the television side. They would probably have been okay with Bob Cole as well. And I don't know that Bob Cole called many endings that were quite as crazy as the ending to game number 4 in this Preds Canucks series. Just your reaction to how that one went down and what it means to the series now, ultimately.
Well, listen, that 351 was as crazy as you're going to see.
Yeah.
I got to get, what Brock Boeser and JT Miller did in those times before the overtime started. I don't think I've seen very, very often. One of the things I would say, guys, when it comes to this team, I think there are lots of teams in the league looking at the Canucks and saying, when are our stars going to react like that? Because that's what you saw. Do absolutely anything to win. And trust me, I live in Toronto. You haven't seen that out of the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. And particularly this playoff series. That to me is something that I think is going to last for a long time for Canuck fans.
You think they wrap it up tonight, John?
I do. I do. I think the emotional roller coaster is such that it'll be difficult for Nashville to respond, even though we know that they played a really good game in Game 4 and Colton Sissons. There's some irony that Colton Sissons was the one.
Mm-hmm.
Because how many times is he going to be reminded this summer when he comes home?
Oh.
And I think that the Canucks proved that they can play really good hockey without being an offensive juggernaut. I mean, the records are pretty straightforward. Was it 73 shots on goal in 4 games? They haven't had more than, 20 in true team playoff mode is really interesting to me.
Do you think, where are you on the Canucks goaltending at this stage of the game? Do you draw much of a distinction between DeSmith and Sheloff's until Demko's ready, if Demko is ready?
I would, it's not a question of going with the hot hand, but you're up 3-1. Sheloff's played well enough to win that game. I would stay with the healthy guy and give DeSmith the extra couple of days. You know, the whole the e-bug thing. And if this was a deciding game or a seventh game, DeSmith could have played. But go with the healthier right now. It just makes too much sense to go with Sheloff's in this scenario. He's played He's played at home. He understands the pressure. And guys, he's played in bigger games than Game 5 of a Stanley Cup final. He's played for his country when the country's going ballistic.
With a medal on the line. Yeah.
With a medal on the line. I mean, this is old. And I'm going with the Latvian.
Well, he even, funnily enough, he equated this to domestic league action in Latvia yesterday. So, never mind the bronze medal. So, yeah, and ultimately, even if they're both 100% healthy, which isn't the case, I think you'd be tempted to go with Sheloff's in game number 5. And we know that DeSmith isn't 100% healthy. So I think that's the obvious decision maker right there, isn't it?
This is one of those cases where coaches can overthink. And you know what? He did well. And giving both the other two guys another couple of days of rest, particularly if they do win. And who knows when Series 2 starts. Yeah.
Well, Pearl Jam, Saturday, Monday at Rogers Arena. So we're thinking Tuesday.
The 7th, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they win tonight, that's a long layoff.
It is.
Which is great for them. Great for them.
Los Angeles, too. And there's no guarantee of that.
Right. And of course, the more time for Quinn Hughes, the better here, John. How concerned are you with the Canucks captain and what he seems to be playing through?
Well, let's face it, that must have been the first 3 things in the game plan, is to target Quinn Hughes, and target Quinn Hughes. Puck a lot quicker than he normally does at times. And from that perspective, you have to give him a ton of credit. This is the challenge of having a smaller sized rushing defenseman, is somebody so key to your offense. So and by the way, Matt, everybody on every team right now is sore. Everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think this is more pronounced, though. You look at his ice time.
That we shouldn't be grading everybody. Well, this guy's really hurt and everybody's fine. Everybody's limping a little bit at some point or got a
Isn't
bruise.
it the first round? Is it?
Well, no, I know.
Having these conversations in 2 weeks.
No, exactly.
No,
I mean, the Canucks.
But guys, look at the amount of hits. Look at the amount of registered hits we've seen in every series. I mean, I think we're at 7 or 8 games over 100 already. It's nuts.
Yeah. Marvelous stuff. Hey, John, safe travels to the Rock, and give the Cole family and all his friends there our best. We will catch up next week, my friend. And
talk soon. Let's go Canucks.
Yes. Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.
Great Clips is the official hair salon of the National Hockey League. There are 37 salons in Vancouver and the Lower Mainland, all Canadian owned and operated. Download the app and find the nearest to you. When you're up next for a cut, you'll get a ready next text. Great Clips. It's going to be great. Time now for today's golf report, brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club and Blake Rory McIlroy teams with Shane Lowry to win the Zurich event in New Orleans. It's his 25th PGA Tour victory. He's the first guy on tour to hit 25 career wins in 19 years since Phil Mickelson and Vijay Singh both did it in 2005. And I'm not sure you caught it, but of course, they're two gregarious Irishmen. They got on stage at the event and led the crowd in a sing-along to Don't Stop Believing. Did you see this?
I heard about it.
Now, that's the type of showmanship the PGA Tour needs going forward, particularly if you don't have all the best players centralized. The other thing that the PGA Tour needs, media figures who feel like family in the living rooms of golf fans. It brings me to NBC Sports. We are 6 weeks away from their coverage of the U.S. Open at Pinehurst, and they have yet to settle on a lead analyst beside Dan Hicks. Have you been noticing the revolving door here? Nota Begay, Brandel Chambly, Paul McGinley, Smiley Kaufman, Kevin Kisner, Luke Donald. They've all been given tryouts. Brad Faxon is there. Jeff Ogilvy's considered one of the great conversations in golf. He's dipped a toe. Of course, in the past, they've relied on David Duval, Justin Leonard, but they're playing more Champions golf because they're the correct age. Begay as well.
I'm not enthralled by much of what you said there.
Now, of course, the opening came up because NBC cut bait with lead analyst Paul Azinger. They also partnered with on-course reporter Roger Maltby, although they've brought him back. Got rid of Gary Koch. Of course, once upon a time, David Faraday, but he jumped to Live. All of that saved NBC money on it, and that's what is starting to be shouted a little louder here, that NBC is looking to do golf on the cheap. Kaufman and Kisner together are terrific. They're good friends. They both went to the same school. There's clearly chemistry there.
They've generally put them in places where it's fun, but the U.S. Open is not that. It's more, it's the biggest championship. I mean, you have to take it a little bit more seriously. I don't mind them being a part of the broadcast, but I don't think you put them in the lead chair.
Okay. Because I was going to say, look, I do wonder whether you are looking at a reimagination here of how golf is delivered on television from NBC. Dan Hicks is in the final year of his contract too. Blake, could you suffer an X Games style two wisecracking commentators bringing you all the action, Kisner and Kaufman?
I mean, yes, on any other week but that one.
So U.S. Open is so sacrosanct to you that
no, they can be there. They can be a satellite. It's like on Trade Center, like there's 5 desks going. Some of them are a little more.
So you're okay with them
others.
as a desk, not not the lead desk.
Right. You want a different take on what's happened? We can go to that one, but you want the nuts and bolts desk.
Okay.
To be a little bit more straight down the middle.
Let me ask you about Faraday. Is it time to bring Faraday home?
Sure.
As lead analyst beside Hicks?
I would do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if he wants that. Like, he's taken on a different sort of job now here.
Well, they all say lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Fewer events.
Yeah.
Frankly, I know Jim Nantz has a big say in it, and I know Jim Nantz probably didn't want to have to deal with David Faraday on a weekly basis, but I thought it was a major mistake from CBS promoting Trevor Immelman ahead of David Faraday for that gig.
Yeah.
Like, it was clear Faraday didn't want to do the on-course reporting anymore. To me, he was the big part of the show. I would have absolutely put him in the booth beside Nantz, and he would have had the yin and yang, right? The seriousness of Nantz and the fun and games of Faraday. Anyways, we'll see what NBC has in store here, because it's clear that budget is an issue. It's also clear that there's not as many people watching men's pro golf because of the factions and the fractions that are at play and the fields being weaker. So this could be a very interesting case study in how sports is done on television going forward. That's today.
Well, I was going to say, by the way, it's a little bit too bad that Taylor and Hadwin didn't. They teamed up. The BC boys teamed up on the weekend,
as they have in the past.
They shot 71. If they had shot the same as Ramey and Trainer had shot, they would have been there.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, exactly. They would have won this event going away. The Canadians are having trouble. Connors and Penrith teamed up too. They were tied for 11th because they shot above 70 as well, or they shot 70 on the nose. So the Canadians on Sunday. Man, oh man. Come on.
Golf Report brought to you by the Arnold Palmer Design Whistler Golf Club. Counting down to opening day on May 10th. We are less than 2 weeks away from that. Club reminds organizers of groups of 12 or more it is time to lock in that tee time for the 2024 season. The prime times filling up fast. And just for reaching out, you, the organizer, gets to play for free. Whistler Golf Club takes care of the rest. Tell us about your group, whistlergolf.com/groups. And of course, follow the winter preparations. Of course, winter great, and the Bears are back. All that at Whistler Golf on social.